So imagine, dry suit, eyes closed, strapped in, door shut, slowly submerge you underwater, turn you upside down, you can't open your eyes, have to open the door, swim out, make sure you swim up, not down, and that's the whole point of the exercise. What happens is, crazy, but when people are upside down underwater in the dark, they swim in the wrong direction. They swim down and they never find the surface. Isn't that horrifying? Well, hello everybody. Sorry it's been slightly longer than a week. I had a shoot at Melbourne University. This time round it wasn't stills, it was for a video, a film, which is very exciting. On location, I've got a few days in total to do, 3 days in total to do. And then the edit. So it's been a bit of a big week, and there was also some pre-production surrounding that, so it's taken up a lot of time. Plus, my mum's been a bit sick, and she went into casualty late last week, and that always throws things into a bit of a tailspin. But here we are, made it back, and that is great. How are you? It's so good to see you. I don't know what's going on in the world, but there seems to be more technology on the move than ever before, and I suppose that's the world we live in when we get mobile phones updated every year. Everything updated all the time, so it may as well include the camera industry. Thanks for being here today. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about the new Sony RX 100 number 7. They just keep coming. I want to talk about the Ronin SC. Who knew that was coming? And here it is, and now that's the Ronin that I actually wanted to begin with, and now it's out. There it is over there, the Ronin SC. And I wanted to talk about Hasselblad. You know, it might have seemed that I was being a bit disparaging of Hasselblad, but I was only really talking about one specific thing. And it's funny that I should go from a DJI thing to a Hasselblad thing. You know, we were talking about the Hasselblad Compact, but of course they still make their medium format old school style cameras. And if you look at this image over here on my left, this is a cracker. This guy, he has been shooting the Russian space industry for a few years with his Hasselblads, and I just wanted to talk about something that I love and showcase. So let's dive into those things. Let's start off with the Sony RX 100 version 7. Now I'm pretty sure you can still buy the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and I'm not sure whether you can buy the 1 or the 2, but you can buy all those older ones and they get slightly cheaper. And I first heard about the Sony RX 100 through one of the world's most famous and successful vloggers, Casey Neistat. And he, at the time, said it was his go-to camera, which he had on his hip at all times. So if he needed an emergency 4K vlog, that was the camera that he turned to because it was in his pocket. And it was a compelling thing. At the time, I still wasn't sure. This was at the time when I wasn't sure what camera I was going to be going for, and I was starting to shoot for YouTube just on my Nikons at 1080p. Autofocus wasn't that great, but I was getting by. And this was in this period when I was looking at the GH5, the Canons, the Sony A7 III. I ended up with the Sony A7R III. And then, of course, there's the Z7, which is what we're shooting on now. So there was sort of almost a 2-year period where I was trying to work out what to do. And in that time, I got myself this. And this is the Sony this is not the Sony A7R, that's completely incorrect. This is the Sony RX 100 version 5. And I do think it is a great camera, but the biggest problem from my perspective was no microphone port. And I'm very pleased to say, with the Sony RX 100 version 7, which of course I don't have, we now have an audio jack, audio in. The single biggest problem with that camera has been solved. Now, between the 5 and the 6, they added a really big lens to it. I think it's either a 28 or a 24 to 200 equivalent. Not really what I was looking for. I really like the fact that the 5 is a 2.8. But with the 7, they've kept with that lens. They've also included some of the crazy focusing capabilities from the A9 and so on. So it has face detect, eye detect. But this is just a quick news. I didn't want to go through all the specs. The most exciting thing about the RX version 7 is that it now has, over here on this side, where it never had before, it now has audio in, which is very exciting. I mean, what else I loved about this camera and why it was so good for vlogging is it has one of these screens, of course. It has one of these screens that I reckon the battery's flat. It's not going to come on yet. I haven't used this for a while. But it has a flip-up screen, so you can do vlogging with it, which, of course, is fantastic. And I think for anyone who's getting started, I'd say this is a great camera, except they're super expensive. In this country, this one cost me, I think, around $1,200 or $1,300 on sale. It was like $1,500. So I'm guessing that the 7 is going to be in the same sort of price point, or perhaps a little bit higher. Look, it packs a lot of punch, but it is very expensive. If you want to have something that there's a 1-inch sensor in there. It's a very good sensor. It's the same sensor. Sony use it in a lot of different things. They use it in the RX Zero. They sell it to DJI, and it's in the Phantom 4. All the variants of the Phantom 4, in the new Mavic Hasselblad version. It's a sensor that's widely used. It's a good sensor. So this is an amazing all-rounder camera if you want something that you can literally just slide into something like this, and then it just disappears into your pocket. So a great compact camera. And now with the audio, it makes it even more of an all-rounder. Of course, it does have its cons, and doesn't have a hot shoe, for example. So that's the Sony, and I'd thoroughly recommend it if you want something compact. It's probably the most capable compact camera on the market. There's just a whole lot of other things that it doesn't do, of course. Now, moving right along, I wanted to next talk about the Ronin. Oh my goodness, out of nowhere came the Ronin SC, and this is a compact version of the Ronin S, which only came out at the end of last year. I got my hands on one, very excited, love it. And there's a few things that I would have changed about it, which have been addressed some 6 to 8 months later by this release, which is a little bit frustrating, although it's an extraordinarily affordable product. In this country, it's $569 RRP, and I'm sure before long it'll be sub $500. So from my perspective, that makes it very affordable. Now the SC is more compact and it's lighter, and that's probably the most significant thing that I like about it, is that it's almost half the weight of the original. Because that was the biggest problem, or that is the biggest problem with the Ronin S, is that it's heavy. There's a lot to carry. There's a lot to carry, and it's quite large. I use it here as part of my setup. It's a very easy way to adjust the camera. I'm not going to adjust it now. It'll ruin everything. It's really useful and really great, but the weight, I think, was the single biggest issue. Size, for me, was the next issue, and the SC is smaller, fits in the bag easily. Another thing that they've solved is that the arms, when you turn it off, all the different XYZ axes arms, they all just flail about, and now they have locks, so that doesn't happen. You can just lock it in position, thus it can't damage itself, and that is a fantastic thing. But to me, the final most powerful thing that they've added to the SC, and I'm wondering if it's going to be possible to add it to the S with a firmware update. Logic suggests to me right now it would be possible, because they're running it from your phone and the software via your phone, so I would think it would be possible. We will see. I reckon we won't see for 6 months, because what DJI will want is that everybody who wants that capability, who currently owns an S, they'll go, I've got to buy an SC, they'll buy it, and then they'll release it for the S. That's the sort of thing that's probably likely to happen, and they'll get more sales that way. That is, you can now set up the Ronin SC to auto track. So we can make it so it would track me as I'm moving around. It uses the camera in your phone. The phone is connected to the Ronin, and then it all follows from there. This is an amazingly useful thing that I kind of thought would be possible for exactly these sort of reasons. I actually Because the Ronin connected to the camera via a cable, so you can control focus and you can control, you can record and take stills from the Ronin. I had theorized that via that cable, the Ronin could actually use the sensor in the camera to determine where a face was, and then from there track that way. I thought they might do that. In the end, they've decided to use the mobile phone camera, which is of course the same way their compact gimbal works. Probably easier to do that way than trying to interface with all the different manufacturers and their sensor that's already busy doing lots of other things. So that technology's here, it's in the Ronin, I love it, it's lighter. This gimbal is actually far more the gimbal that I would have wanted. It's designed for mirrorless, not for SLRs, and I'm shooting everything on mirrorless, so it's perfect for me. I wouldn't mind an almost kilogram saving in weight. I wouldn't mind it being smaller. I wouldn't mind those arms locking, and the face detect to me is actually essential for what I'm doing when I'm vlogging, but I also think it's a really useful thing for when you're shooting. Having shot with the Ronin now a fair bit, when you're moving quick, having a computer controlled face detect might end up being smoother and more reliable than doing it with the joystick, which is how you do it now. I think there'll be times when it works better, because as a camera operator, you're worrying about a lot of things when you're doing moves and focus and all that different stuff on the fly. Might actually be really helpful to have the Ronin making sure that face stays somewhere in the center of frame. So I think this is a really, really useful addition. Thank you, DJI. Good work. It's a little bit clunky with the phone sitting on top of the camera, on top of the gimbal. I reckon in iterations to come, they probably will use the camera's sensor, just like the camera uses it itself for focus. I certainly think all the data would be there to pass it back to the Ronin for it to be able to say, the camera's telling me that the person's head is moving off to the right of frame, so we need to address that by moving the gimbal. I think that will come. I think that might be version 2 or 3. So that's the Ronin SC, and I'm very excited about it, and damn it, I'm going to have to actually get one because I think it's going to be more useful for me. Luckily, is almost an accessory. It's cheaper than a flash, which is hard to believe because it's a very beautiful, I love the Ronin S. It's a beautifully made piece of hardware. It's glorious, it's reliable, battery life is fantastic. I don't have any complaints about the S, except its weight. And these new features, well, they're just added bonuses. So that's the Ronin S. Let's move on to now the Hasselblad and what's going on over here in this image. So a new segment I will be bringing to the vlog is what's my favorite thing this week? And this week, my favorite thing is Michael Najjar. He's clearly been working, and sorry, I hope I said that correctly. He's been working with Hasselblad, and Hasselblad are featuring him this month. And he's been taking these amazing images of the Russian space program. And the thing is, this is not about new tech. And that's what I loved about this. And this is why I wanted to talk about it. Because to capture these glorious, glorious images, and for copyright reasons, I feel like I shouldn't be showing them in totality. The link is right here. You can see it right there. I want you to go and have a look for yourself. These are beautiful images. They're on the web. Of course, you can see them, but they're not mine to reproduce in focus. But I think you can tell out of focus how awesome they are. But the thing is, he's photographing this on an older Hasselblad. And not just on an older Hasselblad, but he is photographing it on the same Hasselblad that I own. And that makes me think, wow, I've got to stretch the legs of my little old Hasselblad a little bit more, because look at what this guy is doing. So here it is. Now, the thing about the Hasselblad, which is it's easy for people to forget, is how big, and this thing is huge. I mean, I don't know if you get a sense of it in this, but it's big. And not only is it big, but compared to the Z7 and so on, it is super heavy. But it takes astonishing images like we can see right here. This, same one. He is using exactly the same one, H4D60. So this excites me to get my little beauty back out again, have some more fun with it. It takes amazing shots. It's 60 megapixels. I've had a few chats online with people talking about the GFX 100, selling this and getting one of those. I don't know, that's a tough decision. Obviously this has got a larger sensor than the GFX, and it's got a lower pixel count, 60 versus 100, which would mean the photo sites are larger. So technically it's doing a better job, and the optics are larger and everything is larger, right? So there's things that this thing can do that even the GFX 100 can't do. Not talking about megapixels. Clearly it has more. But of course, this camera is old. It's in digital camera terms, it's pretty ancient, but it's still spectacular. So it's hard to say. Anyway, I just wanted to say that's my favorite thing this week. I want you to go check out Michael's work. It's spectacular on an old camera. So there's nothing wrong with old cameras. I've been sure it's a Porsche 911 of old cameras, but still it's an old camera. And I bought this secondhand. I didn't pay full price. So cameras like this you can get into. You can get into an absolute Porsche 911. It's like a classic car, isn't it? It's totally like a classic car, but you don't have to pay the new showroom price. So please check out his work. It's glorious. I wish I'd had an opportunity in my life to photograph things like this. Yet still to come. The closest I've got to that is being out on some oil rigs, which was been absolutely amazing. I worked for a petroleum company a few years back and stayed a couple of nights out on an oil rig in Bass Strait. I'll try and find some photos. My archive is so enormously deep. But yes, that was astonishing. I even had to do helicopter underwater escape training, which is called the Hewitt training. I had to get my Hewitt certification in order to go out there. And that means they literally, you put on a dry suit, they stick you in a pretend helicopter, full scale, 1-to-1, submerge you underwater with the door shut. You have to hold your breath, wait for the helicopter to turn upside down, so it slowly rolls over. And with your eyes shut, because you had to be able to do it at night. So imagine, dry suit, eyes closed, strapped in, door shut, slowly submerge you underwater, turn you upside down, you can't open your eyes, have to open the door, swim out, make sure you swim up, not down, and that's the whole point of the exercise. What happens is, crazy, but when people are upside down underwater in the dark, they swim in the wrong direction. They swim down, and they never find the surface. Isn't that horrifying? So I had to do that training a few years back. I survived, as you can see. It was hard yakka. Luckily, there's a scuba diver literally sitting directly opposite you on the other side of the full scale. It's actually a decommissioned helicopter that they had, obviously with everything stripped out of it. But still pretty terrifying, especially for me who has a fear of drowning, because I almost drowned in a pond when I was about 2.5 years old. My parents weren't keeping quite enough of an eye on me. So it's a small phobia of mine. Thank you to Michael for creating his beautiful images of the Russian space program. Please check them out. I think you'll really enjoy them. It's a good read as well, the article. As always, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Please subscribe if this is your first time here. I'd love to see you again. Please like, because it makes the story get out there. Please share, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And if you have any questions or any ideas for videos, I'd love to hear them from you. Have a great week, and I will see you soon.